Debut work for the Americans Thra, who have been bringing pestilence to the underground of black/death metal powered by sludge for a few years now. A pestilence that now in a long duration does not fail to have even more charm. Death metal giving strength, black metal giving the tone, and sludge doom bringing that dirt that fills our ears with soot. The result is up to what the title suggests. From the caves to the interior of the earth, where the light does not reach. 10 years of absence, and here they are again. Panzerchrist, one of the interesting names of Danish death/black metal that finally managed to stabilize its formation and release a good album to match its illustrious career. Mainly because they managed to surprise by their unusualness. Last of a Kind is an album that dares to break the mold of what is expected within the black/death metal spectrum. In fact, the title theme itself is a reflection of that. A hypnotic unusualness that we can't resist. I confess that initially it took some getting used to, but soon we were carried away by this piece of metallic blackness. Back in a big way.
The sentence that begins the press release for Somniate's second album is not only poetic, it hits the nail on the head. It says, and I quote, "There are albums in this world that are inspired by books, that is, by the words and thoughts of their writers. We have proof death captures the essence of what remained unsaid. And this is totally true. It is not that it is a revolutionary album within black metal, and does not even want to assume itself as such. Yet it has a suffocating intensity that leaves an abyss-sized void when it's over, in an album that is as deep as it is passionate. Curiously, while we are listening to it, the feeling is to be permanently facing that same abyss."
With every new release that takes up more traditional genres, there's always that sense of security about the future. Even if the renewal of blood doesn't exactly bring evolution or reinvention. There is room for everything and everyone. In the case of Atonement, the Swedish band takes the primordial formula of thrash metal that bands like Kreator, Destruction, and Sodom popularized at the beginning of their careers, and that later other bands like Niflheim made a point of calling attention again. Merciless black/thrash metal, with an aggressive sound and an organic production that takes us back to the golden age of extreme metal, without realizing that we are living it.
If it wasn't for the name reminding me of one of the songs I like the least from Iron Maiden, and this cover would have been immediately indicated that we would be facing a great heavy metal album. And to see how powerful the music is, it took very little of this album to be completely surrendered and completely forget the said music. The British Tailgunner demonstrate a talent for taking a genre already middle-aged, or approaching it, and giving it a vitality that does not always come to us these days. This is one of those albums that we will hardly stop listening to, and one of the emerging talents that we will definitely want to follow.
Cavern Deep was a band that caught our attention from the first moment, due to their very own way of making doom metal. It's not that they broke the mold or revolutionized the way of making good doom metal, but they presented beyond the expected points of the style a competence of their own to elevate their songs to unexpected points. Here this becomes even clearer with a haunting feeling that haunts us. In a good way, of course. Primordial Basin, featuring Susie from Broom, is one of those blatant cases, resulting in a haunting theme that turns out to be one of the best of the whole work. However, the rest of the album does not disappoint and has that wonderful junction of heaviness with extreme melancholy. Better and better.
Return of the Norwegian Flight, who have that vintage hard and heavy sound that we have no defenses to resist. Nor do we want to, with this timeless class. We know that the most skeptical will say that the nostalgic sound does nothing more than look back. I might even agree, were it not for the fact that these songs sound completely refreshing and far from what hard rock and heavy metal have been presenting. Echoes of journeys past brings beauty and class to a style that has become increasingly demanding now that it is far from the mainstream. It sounds classic, which tells us that we will come back to it many more times in the future.
The Withering Scorn are a perfect unknown, however it is enough to say that it is the new band of the Drove brothers, Glenn and Sean, ex-Megadeth on guitars and drums respectively, Joe DiBiase, ex-Fates Warning, and Henning Bass, ex-Metalium, for all attention to focus on this debut album, Prophets of Demise. Of course, with these names involved we could only have great quality heavy metal, and that's exactly what we have. Bass is one of the great voices of heavy metal, and here he has songs that are served in the best way by his voice. With no intention of going back in time or revolutionizing the genre, Prophets of Demise achieves one of the great heavy metal albums of 2023 without much difficulty.
When I saw the title I thought, well, the Yawning Man guys have gone on some new adventure, and it wasn't far from the truth. This time it was a joint venture with the mythical Fu Manchu guitarist, Bob Balch. All in all, Balch proceeded to jam with Yawning Man in the Joshua Tree Desert, and the result was 5 hours of recordings, the first volume of which is here. Rumor has it there's going to be a second. 5 hours from which these 3 parts were taken, which are a real instrumental psychedelic trip. It makes us lose time, it makes us abstract, but at the same time always with that feeling of absolute happiness as only music can provoke us. A fantastic experience to which we do not mind spending our lives in a loop.
Debut work of the Canadians Widow's Peak, who present in claustrophobe and addiction to extreme music in the form of technical death metal. I am the first to turn up my nose at the use of dissonance in heavy music, but it is inevitable when it is used in a sublime way. Here we have an example of that. And not only that, we also have an example of how it is possible to make technical and heavy music without having to have a master's degree in quantum physics applied to music or having insomnia problems that you are desperate to cure. Claustrophobe is a roller coaster ride from start to finish and gives extreme pleasure to anyone looking for an exciting technical death metal proposition. That's what happened to us.